Everyone. As was indicated, my name is Steve Saya, live in Nyack, been here for about 28 years, and I've actually participated in some of the programs we'll be reviewing tonight. So what can you expect this evening? As Rosemary had indicated, we will email you the slides and the links so you could regulate your note-taking in regard to that. So we have a lot of information. We'll go slow and we'll take you through each of the slides, and I'll be available for follow-up tonight for questions, and then in the future if you want to continue to learn more about some of these programs. So we're going to be reviewing some of the causes of energy inefficiencies and the impact on your budget and health. We'll also review the state goals to address climate change. We'll take a look at some of the areas we consume the most energy and how you may compare to the average New Yorker. We'll outline some of the programs to help you improve your energy use and reduce your energy bills. We'll show you how to lower your greenhouse gas emissions, and we'll go over some do-it-yourself actions that you could take. As we had indicated, there's going to be a survey at the end, and if you sign up with your contact information for a follow-up consultation, there'll be a drawing and to receive an energy reduction kit, which includes some LED bulbs, some rope caulking, a door sweep, and a plastic seal window kit. So you have there's a little drawing at the end, a little raffle, so that'll be fun. So let me just explain what the Energy Navigator is quickly. So it's a volunteer program that's been sponsored by the Cornell Cooperative Extension. And as an Energy Navigator, I can help you assess your current energy use, look at ways of saving energy and reducing your energy bills. The Energy Navigator also does community outreach. That's part of this presentation through the library. We try to connect people to the state programs to make their homes more energy efficient. So to become an Energy Navigator, I had to complete a 10-week training program, and I participate in ongoing information sessions. So I want to be clear that I have no financial connection with any of these programs or the companies that provide some of the services. The motivation for me is to simply help my community reduce its carbon footprint. And your motivations may be different. You may want to save some money, you may want to reduce your greenhouse gases, you may want to improve the comfort and air quality in your home. It really doesn't matter what the motivation is if these programs could help you along the way. So the presentation is a simple overview, and I'll be available to help long after the presentation's over. This is an ongoing initiative, so if there are questions that you have after the presentation is done, you'll have my contact information, and you should feel free to give me a call or an email. So I can also connect you with other resources to support your efforts to become more energy efficient. So let's start off by taking a look at the two major New York State climate goals. The first here is the state wants to achieve 100% zero emissions electricity by 2040. And what that means essentially is to move away from fossil fuels and move toward 100% renewable energy. And renewable energies meaning wind, solar, hydro. The second goal is by 2050, they want to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions at least 85% below 1990 levels. So the state has created some of these programs to help meet those goals on a residential basis. Let's take a look at where we use the most energy, and so we could focus our efforts. So you may have heard that Jesse James was asked once why he robs banks, and he said because that's where the money is. And many of these programs focus on home heating and cooling because that's where the most energy is used. So you can see in the US about 41% of the space heating consumes our energy consumption. And for mid-Atlantic states, it increases, and in New York, it's 56%. So 56% of our energy consumption is through space heating. The second largest is for appliances, electronics, and lighting. So these programs are also designed to address those needs. So combined, we're looking at about 82% of our energy consumption is in those two areas. So let's talk about what makes our homes inefficient. So you could see here that one big way we lose energy is through air infiltration and the lack of adequate insulation. So you could think of insulation and air sealing as a wool sweater and a windbreaker. So when you put on a wool sweater and you're inside, it collects the heat, keeps you warm. But if you walk outside and it's windy and it's cold, then the air is going to go right through the wool sweater and draw all that heat away. So you put on a windbreaker to prevent the wind from getting through. So if you could think of the wool sweater as insulation and the windbreaker as air sealing, the combination of the two creates a building envelope, which is the quality of the building envelope, where the separation between the heated spaces and the unheated spaces is really the most important factor affecting your heat loss in your building, in your home or your apartment. So you can see here that this section is the building envelope. So it's the separation between the conditioned space, the heated space, and either the outside or an unconditioned space up here in, let's say, an attic. So if you don't have proper insulation or seal, then the hot air rises and creates an opportunity to see ice dams. So this is sort of the effect that happens. It's called the stack effect. So as hot air rises, it draws cool air from the sides, usually from the lower floors, and air can also infiltrate through window cracks or cracks around an air conditioner, through outlets, and particularly in a fireplace, where if it's not sealed properly, the hot air could go right through and out the chimney. So the state programs directly help limit this heat loss through air sealing and insulation, and we'll be discussing them shortly. And not only do these energy inefficiencies hurt your budget, they also impact your physical and mental health. So the research is pretty clear that poor indoor air quality and uncomfortable space impacts us. And we are impacted through poor air quality, uncomfortable spaces, poor ventilation, temperature extremes, and simply by arguing over the thermostat, which I know in my family we have those arguments all the time. So there are financial and health costs to that kind of inefficiency. So we've looked at some of the physical signs of energy inefficiency. Let's talk about the utility bill and how we could see and see how that and what that could tell us about inefficiency in your home. So let's take a look at electricity. And these are average costs and usages for the average household in New York State. So in the area of electricity, the average household uses about 7,000 kilowatt hours of power each year, or about 590 kilowatt hours per month, at a cost of just under $1,300 a year and about $106 each month. On the heating side, it really depends on what kind of heating fuel you use. So on the usage, if you have natural gas, average annual consumption is about 600 cubic feet. For fuel oil, it's about 520 gallons, and propane, it's about 740 gallons. So the average costs can range from $900 for natural gas upwards of $2,000 for propane. So if you take a look at your bill, and that's something I could help with, if your energy consumption is above or below these levels, you can get a nice idea of how potentially efficient your home or apartment is. So that's something we could look at a little bit more closely. So if you're looking at your energy bill, you may see these charges, this system benefits charge or renewable portfolio standard charge. So these charges are designed to pay for some of the programs we'll be talking about. So essentially, if you're paying your utility bill directly, or if you're paying it through your rent, you are contributing to these programs, so you might as well take advantage of them. And one of the main parts of any of these programs is an energy assessment or an energy audit. So in all cases, there's a free standard assessment. And we'll go over specifically what that means, but they're conducted by certified contractors. So NYSERDA, or the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, has an extensive network of contractors who are certified by the Building Performance Institute. And they can examine your home and look for root causes of high energy bills, any discomfort, drafts and such, and potential health hazards. So they're not code inspectors. Their expertise is specifically on energy efficiency. And they can look at measures to help your home be safe and comfortable. There are some COVID precautions that they have to follow, but in one specific area, there's a blow-a-door test, and that test is designed to seal the door and vent your indoor air outside. So that can't be done in an apartment building because of COVID, you want to vent to the outside and not within the building. We'll talk a little bit about the blower-door test later on, but it's an important part of the energy assessment because it measures how much air infiltration there is in the building. So an energy audit also, auditor might use a thermal camera to determine where there are heat loss. The final report that they give you is going to recommend areas where you could seal around windows and doors, and where you could add some insulation to improve the building envelope, as we've talked about. So there are 3 tiers of programs primarily driven by gross household income and based on the number of people you have in your household. So there are a lot of programs and they can be a little confusing. So that's why the Energy Navigator program was created, so that Energy Navigators could help you through some of these programs to see what you can qualify for. But I like to go through them now. I'll go through the 3 tiers, and we'll start with tier 1. So as you can see here, this is a grid that shows the annual income based on household size. So for example, if you have 4 members in your household and your income is below $57,564, then all tier 1 programs you could potentially be eligible for. If you have, likewise, if you have a household of 7, then the amount is about $78,000. So the first program in tier 1 is the Empower New York. So this gives homeowners and renters a no-cost energy solutions. So to be eligible, in addition to meeting these income guidelines, you need to own or rent a single-family home or live in a multifamily building with 100 or fewer units. Also for this program, you need to pay your own utility bill. And if you do those things, then you're eligible for the Empower New York, and the benefit is 100% paid home energy assessment. That's the energy assessment we just reviewed. And based on that assessment, these various things could be paid for. High efficiency LED bulbs, they could change the lighting in the home with high efficiency LEDs. They could do the air sealing, install attic and wall insulation, and they could even replace old, obsolete, and inefficient refrigerators. They could replace some of the shower heads with water-saving shower heads. And if you qualify for Empower, you're also eligible for a $5 to $15 per month solar energy credit. So there's quite a lot there. So the second program in tier 1 is this weatherization assessment program. The same income guidelines in all of tier 1 that we just reviewed. The eligibility is fairly similar to Empower, except the participants are not required to pay their own bills. So if your utility bills are paid through your rent, then you can qualify for this program. And the benefits are similar to Empower, but a little bit more extensive. So they'll still pay for the energy assessment and the high efficiency lighting, the air sealing, the attic and wall insulation, but they'll also pay for heating system repairs, and even in some cases, the replacement of a furnace or windows. They'll also mitigate any health risks or safety hazards. And again, if you qualify for this, then you're also eligible for the $5 to $15 per month solar energy credit. The third program under tier 1 is the Home Energy Assistance Program, or HEAP. And this is a program that helps directly pay the cost of heating. Again, it's the same income criteria, and if you own or rent. In this case, it doesn't matter if you pay your own utility bill or pay it through the rent, you could be eligible for this program. The benefits is a direct payment that ranges from $21 to $675 right off your heating bill. And it's based on the actual usage, primary heating source, whether you use propane or natural gas, and the age of some of the family members. So on a scale, they will pay more if you use propane, for example, or if you have some senior citizens living in your household, then the number ranges up. So not only do you get the direct payment, but there's also an emergency benefit. That emergency benefit is if your utilities have been shut off or they're scheduled to be shut off. They also will repair the heating equipment and also replace it or do a cleaning or a tune-up. It also applies for cooling assistance also in the summer. And the last program under Tier 1 is Solar for All. So this is a way of providing clean energy while lowering your energy costs. Again, it's the same income criteria. If you own or rent in a single-family home or in a multifamily building with 100 or fewer units, and you pay your own utility bill. And the benefit is $180 annually, up to $180 through a monthly solar credit applied directly to your utility bill. And this is how it works. So some solar panels are installed somewhere in the community. They provide energy directly into the grid, and then you get it through the grid from the utility the way you normally do. So there's no need to pay to install any solar panels or put them on your property at all. It's all done through the utility, the way you get your electric now. And you just see a credit on your bills each month. It's as simple as that. The application's very quick and easy, and if you qualify for Empower or Weatherization, you get this program automatically. So let's move to Tier 2. And here the income guidelines change. And you can see there's 2 tiers. And because of COVID-19, the state bumped up the qualifications for this program. So through the end of the year, the end of this month, December 31st, if you apply for the program, these are the income limits. So if you have a family of 5, for example, and you make under $138,300 in household income, then you would qualify. After January 1st, that number goes down to 92,000 for a household with 5 members. So if you're between these 2 numbers, then it really behooves you to look at, and you're interested in doing some of these energy efficiency improvements, it really makes sense to try to get that application in before the end of the year in order to get this benefit. So the eligibility is a little different. The number of units in a multifamily building is reduced to 4. So if you're in a single family home or a multifamily building with 2 to 4 units, then you're eligible if you meet these income guidelines. And the benefit is that same energy audit and energy assessment that we talked about, but also you would get 50% discount on the eligible energy efficiency improvements that you make, up to $5,000 for a single family home and $10,000 for units of 2 to 4 in a residential building. And the upfront costs can be financed with low interest financing, which is available through this program as well. So again, if you're between these 2 numbers, depending on your household size, it's something that you may want to complete the survey at the end, and then I could help you through that process. So let's move on to Tier 3. So the Tier 3 is income levels above these numbers. So before the end of the year, it's above these numbers here, and after the first of the year, it's above these numbers. So if you don't qualify for Tier 1 and 2, then you can qualify for Tier 3. And Tier 3 still provides a free standard energy audit, and the same sort of eligibility requirement as Tier 2, own or rent, single family home, multifamily building of up to 4 units. And the benefits is that free standard energy assessment. We also recommend the blower door test. That provides some really good information about how tight your home is, and really can guide whether some of the improvements make financial sense for you to take advantage of. There's also low interest financing available for those improvements that you make. I did this program, and it really told me a lot of information about my house, and guided me towards some of the energy efficiency improvements I'll be making. So the next program is the Comfort Home program. And this is a pilot program in Rockland County. It provides rebates or reduced costs for air sealing and insulation. To be eligible, we've seen this before, own or rent a single-family home or live in a multifamily building of up to 4 units. And the benefit is a no-fee consultation, not quite as elaborate as the energy assessment, but there's a consultation, and then a $500 to $4,000 for installation of air sealing and insulation packages. So that could, depending on how extensive it is, that could be, upwards of 50% off the cost of those improvements. Orange and Rockland provide some incentives as well. So the utility provides financial incentives for installing heat pumps. So the heat pump is a highly efficient electric-based way of heating and cooling your home. So the heat pump can be air sourced or ground sourced, and we can discuss that a little bit more depth if that's something you're interested in, either in the Q&A or if you want more information, you can contact me directly. But through the use of the heat pump, you're essentially, instead of using fossil fuels, you'll be using electric. And if you're using solar or some kind of renewable for your electricity, essentially you're reducing your greenhouse gas emissions to 0 for your heating, which is significant. So Orange and Rockland also provides discounts for smart thermostats and LED bulbs, and they provide a cash rebate for appliances. And this is important, particularly in the area of air conditioners and refrigerators, because both those units have refrigerants in them. And refrigerants are a big source of greenhouse gases. And if they leak, they could have dramatically more of an impact on your carbon footprint, because 1 kilogram of refrigerant, or about 2 pounds, has the same greenhouse gas impact as 2 tons of carbon dioxide. That's like running the equivalent of your car for about six months. So it's significant. So in order to try and capture those refrigerants, the Orange and Rockland is providing little cash incentive for people to recycle those appliances. And the last program under Tier 3 is something you may be aware of for incentives to purchase an electric vehicle. So the state and the federal government provide incentives. The state incentive is through a program called Drive Clean rebate. And this is significant because this is a point of sale rebate, meaning when you go to the dealership and buy the car, they're going to take the $2,000 off directly before you pay. The federal rebate is a tax credit. So you'll pay it up front and then you'll get the credit when you file your tax return. So the credit is pretty significant. It's $7,500. and it's for all electric and plug-in electric vehicles, depending on the range and the number of cars that are sold. And the way you could see if you're interested in buying an electric vehicle, whether that car that you're looking to purchase would qualify, you could go to this website and it lists all the electric vehicles and how much of the federal tax credit they would qualify for. And again, this link will be distributed to you via email. But you don't have to wait. You could act now. You can schedule a consultation by completing the survey, which will be up shortly, and we can work together to assess your energy use. And if you think you qualify for any of those programs, we could explore that and complete the applications. You could individually just check around your windows and doors and see if they're drafty. One effective way of really finding out whether there's a draft is just damp your hand a little bit in water. And then if you run your hand around the window, it'll be more sensitive to any cold air coming through. And if you find something like that, then you could seal it through some caulking or weather stripping or a door sweep. You could also switch to LED bulbs. That can reduce your lighting costs 80, 90%. So what we suggest is maybe you look for the 5 or 6 areas in your home that you have the light on most often and switch out the bulbs for LEDs to maximize your savings. When you're buying appliances, look for the Energy Star logo and select appliances that are the most energy efficient. You could set your refrigerator to 40 degrees and your freezer to 0 degrees. You could do a refrigerator seal test, which is simply opening up the refrigerator door. You put a dollar bill on the edge and you close the door on the dollar bill. And if you could slide the bill out, chances are your refrigerator seal needs to be replaced and you're leaking some cool refrigerated air. Also, you could plug your standby electronics into a power strip or a smart power strip. So appliances and electronics that have a transformer or a remote are typically on all the time. And although they may be off, they're drawing what's called phantom electricity. So if you plug them into a power strip and then shut the power strip off when you're done with the appliance, it'll ensure that you're not drawing power when the appliance is not being used. A smart power strip takes it one step further. So the way I have it set up in my home, I have my TV plugged into a live outlet on the power strip. And all the other appliances associated with it, like a gaming console or the Roku box or your cable box, are plugged into an outlet on the smart power strip that's not powered. Once you turn the TV on, then it electrifies all the other outlets on the power strip and all your other devices come on at that point. So you can still save some money without the hassle of turning on and off your regular power strip. You could use programmable or smart thermostats to, when we finally go back to work, when you're out of the house, you could program the thermostat to reduce the temperature in the home while you're out and then turn it up before you get back after the day. Down in the basement, you could insulate about 3 feet going into and out of your hot water heater and set the temperature to about 120. You could also replace your furnace filters and seal any ductwork that you have in your furnace that may be leaking. So these are some of the things, do it yourself, that you can get started with now. Before you do the large things like that I explained as part of some of the programs that we talked about in your energy assessment. So you don't have to do it alone. That's why they created the energy navigators, and that's something I'd be very happy to help you all with. Here are a couple of additional sites that you could check out. Mid-Hudson Energy Choice website will explain some of the programs that I reviewed tonight. The Cornell Cooperative Extension Community Energy Advisors site will explain the program a little bit more. I've written an article for Nyack News and Views in the Earth Matters column, which explains some of these programs and a little bit about the Energy Navigator program. So all of those are additional resources that might be able to help. So I've asked Rosemary to post the link to the survey in the chat box. This is my email address. And with that, we could take some questions. So if anybody has any questions, you could either write them in the chat box and Rosemary will read them out, or you could unmute yourself and just say your question the old-fashioned way out loud.
Steve, it's Rosemary, actually. I couldn't cut and paste the survey link to go to everyone who's here. Can you send it to everyone in the chat?
Let me see, I'll do that right now.
Thanks. Okay, it came up.
Got
Thank
it?
you.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Sure.
So does anyone have any questions? I'm just going to take away the screen save and we can see people. Okay.
Great.
There we go. Oh, John Skelly wants to know what a door sweep is.
So on the bottom of your door, if there's a gap between the door jamb or the saddle and your door, a door sweep provides a flexible piece of material, either rubber, sometimes it's actual bristles, that when you open and close the door, it creates a seal that prevents air from leaking in. So it's a form of weather stripping that you could put at the bottom of the door. And they call it a sweep because in some cases, it actually looks like a broom that sweeps across the saddle.
Just realized I was muted. John had another question. Is there a difference between geothermal heating and a heat pump?
So geothermal heat is a source. Geothermal is a source of heating the loop that's used for a heat pump. So a heat pump compresses or decompresses air to create a temperature difference. So in the case of an air source heat pump, it creates that temperature difference from the outside air to the inside air. In geothermal, it creates the difference between the ground temperature and your inside air. So because ground source is usually around 50 degrees, there's less of a difference to heat the temperature between the 50 degrees of the water that's flowing through the ground than, maybe it's 10 degrees outside. So you got to bring that 10-degree temperature up to 70 degrees, or probably more like 120 degrees in order to heat your home. So geothermal is one means of heating the refrigerant that goes through the heat pump through a source that has more consistent heating. So there's another type of geothermal, which is plugging into the heat from the ground, but you need a heat pump in order to transfer the temperatures from the ground into a higher temperature in your home for heating and a lower temperature in your home for cooling. Does that answer it?
Yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you. I'm
Sure.
just wondering about that pump. I guess it's like a compressor in an air conditioner or refrigerator.
Exactly.
And does that use a lot of electricity?
So the efficiency is tremendously efficient. So when you are burning a fossil fuel in order to generate heat, that the energy that's stored in that fuel, you're getting maybe 30% of. When you convert it using a heat pump, you're actually getting over 200% efficiency out of the electricity to convert it to heat. Because you're absolutely right, you're compressing the air or decompressing it depending on whether you're getting cooling or heating. And that's an extremely efficient way of heating. But maybe your question alludes to whether the cost would be a savings. Even though it may be efficient, it may cost you something different in order to heat through the electric than heating through, let's say, gas or propane. And the answer to that is it depends on a few factors. It depends on whether you have ground source heat pump or air source heat pump, because the efficiency is a little different. It also depends on what fuel you're currently using. I could say almost unequivocally that if you're using fuel oil or propane, you'll see a significant reduction in your heating costs by going to a heat pump. Gas, natural gas, it depends on some of those other factors that I've talked about. It'll be more efficient than burning gas, but your overall costs probably will be less, but it depends on some factors. But the important aspect of that is, in terms of energy use, it's much more efficient. But if you're pairing that with solar or some other renewable, then you're, even at the same cost, you're significantly reducing your carbon footprint and reducing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions for heating the same size home.
So Karen had a question. She's wondering, can you combine or do two programs such as Tier 3 and Comfort Home at the same time?
So the Comfort Home is in Tier 3, and you can combine that. So I actually did exactly that. So the first program in Tier 3 is the energy audit, the residential energy audit. So I went through the energy audit. I did the blower door test. It gave me an indication of what my efficiency was, and I was quite surprised. So my home is fairly old. It was built in the 1930s. And I did a number of things to try and seal the windows and doors, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job. But after they did the test, it turns out that almost 70% of my heating is getting lost every hour. So there's a tremendous amount of heat escaping, through lack of insulation and lack of air sealing. So they provided, the contractor provided some recommendations on what I could do to air seal and insulate. And I asked them, and this was before the Comfort Home program was available, So recently I wrote them back and said, you did this energy audit, you recommended air sealing and insulation. Can you apply the Comfort Home program to that? So they gave me a new quote, and it took $500 off the air sealing, and I think it was about $1,000 off the insulation. So the air sealing, that brought it down, in half. So I'm looking at that, and I'm looking to do both now, both the air sealing and the insulation. But that's combining two programs from tier 3. I'm also looking at an electric vehicle and hoping that the new administration is going to reinstitute some of those electric vehicle tax rebates, or I should say tax credits. So that's another way you can combine tier 3. I'm also looking at doing heat pumps and looking at the Orange and Rockland heat pump incentives as well. So all those things in tier 3 are not mutually exclusive. You can combine them. You can take advantage of all of them if you care to. I hope that answers the question.
Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, yes. Karen says thank you.
Okay, good.
Yes, answer your question. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens when Biden takes over. And see
Yeah,
if,
so he's already, sort of signaled that there's going to be a lot more done in the area of climate change. And I have to imagine that there are going to be some incentives to make that happen. So I'm actually holding off on some of the things that I'm looking to do in order to see what the federal government is likely to institute by the way of incentives, and then I'll make my determination on what I'll do from there.
okay. Any more questions for Steve? So the survey's in the chat, and I'm also going to email everyone a list of links, which includes a survey, Steve's PowerPoint presentation, and his contact information.
So the thing I would also say is, if you don't qualify for any of these programs, or you may not be in a position to take advantage of them at this point, I would just ask that if you know people who are interested, that they reach out to me and I could explain them, the programs to them, try to put them in touch with other resources that might help them. I mean, the idea for me is to try to help my neighbors, reduce their energy costs and, reduce our collective carbon footprint. So get the word out. I appreciate you all, coming out and listening to the presentation. And I look forward to helping you or your friends and family if you find people who are in need of some energy improvements and energy efficiencies.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right.
All right. Everyone
So
have a good night.
That was almost in exactly an hour. We couldn't
It
have
was
better than this.
7:57.
All right. You have a good night.
Yes, everyone stay well, stay safe.
Yes, you
Good night.
too. I know.
Yes,
Bye.
good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.